everybody. Welcome to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday, July 25th, 2014.
Yes, and we are. It's been a very kind of a rough last 2 weeks for me and Kim. Just to catch everybody up, we have lost both of our dogs in the last 2 weeks, and we had an incident today that didn't help, but we're okay.
And if it happens again tomorrow, I am going after a 9-year-old, and I'm removing his kidneys with a spork and putting them on an anthill.
She won't go after him with a spork.
Yes, I will.
She'll be too busy trying to get my bail money together. But tonight we are joined, as you could hear from that mysterious laugh in the background. We are joined by a very good friend of ours. He's an author, a lecturer, Mr. Joedy Cook. Joedy, how are you?
Doing good. Doing good, Eric. How are you?
You know, I actually, it's like I said, we've had kind of a rough week around here at home, but actually, for our close friends that don't already know, I've got a job now. I mean, it's been, other than that, it's been a great week.
Yeah, it's been good for me. I mean, this month, this month's kind of, was kind of down for me. Because this is the 4th anniversary of the death of my daughter.
Right.
Who passed away from cystic fibrosis, but my other two girls, they turned 19. This month. So there was a good side and there was a bad side to it, but
And they looked beautiful in their prom dresses.
Yeah. That was. I think that wasn't prom. That was a Valentine's dance that they went to on that one, and stuff. Their prom dresses, they were like these, I'm trying, Lady Gaga type, ballerina type dresses, and it's just like, are you real? Are you wearing that? So. But I didn't post those, because I as a dad, I wasn't real happy about those dresses. But, it's their senior prom, and, I sit there and thought about my senior prom, and I'm like, yeah. Mine was a lot worse than theirs, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're looking from the male side of it.
Yeah. Because you know what the
guys are thinking
at the prom, right? Exactly. Just so our viewers know, if you've never heard of this man,
it is your own fault.
One, yes, it is your own fault. 2, go to Facebook and look for him on Facebook. Number 3, you've wrote how many? 8 books, Joedy?
Oh,
No,
12.
Yeah, 12 books.
And all in varying, other than the zombie book, other than that one, they've all been cryptid based, right?
Yeah, they've all been cryptid based. 5 dealt with Bigfoot. 1 dealt with winged entities, which is, like your Mothman type sightings, your Thunderbirds, gargoyle type sightings, Jersey Devil type creatures, things like that. Then I did book 1 and book 2 on humanoid encounters, and there were case books, 1 for Ohio, in West Virginia, and 1 for Pennsylvania, because they had like the most of the humanoid type sightings, which would be in any type of a creature, either was alien, Bigfoot, Mothman type creature, anything that was in human form, even a ghost. And it was pretty interesting, putting that. This is stuff that I've had for almost 30 years of just collecting stuff. Before actually getting out into the field. I've got binders and binders and binders of newspaper clippings, going back 30 years, even further than that, just from, collecting what I've done. Because back in the old days before the computer, that's how you did. You went to the library, you went through all the newspapers from around the country to, see what type of sightings and stuff were out there. So
and for those kids that have never actually had to do this, they make this thing called microfiche. And the microfiche, it's all the newspaper. Yeah. It's on a little bitty thing, and if you move it a 30 seconds of an inch, you just skip 4 months worth of newspapers because those things are almost impossible to control.
Yeah, it's very very time consuming. Yes.
Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask this to get it out of the way. Are the Bigfoot shows that you see on TV? Is it like ghost hunting? The show they're for entertainment, or is there some actual value to what they're doing?
Yeah, you know. No, I used Finding Bigfoot, and I tell people that it's a perfect example of what not to do in the field. You know, and a lot of researchers back me up on that. You know, you got to understand a lot of these shows, I mean, for entertainment purpose, it's like, you know, Mountain Monsters, for an example. You know, those guys are actors. They're paid actors. You know, and they even admitted it at a conference in Ohio at Creature Weekend. Trapper, he said they embellish the stuff that's on that show, and he's an actor, you know, and but it's the highest ranking show on Destination America, which they just got signed for a 3rd season, you know, and this is what this field is coming to. I mean, it's coming to, you know, bakery. I mean, it's the best way to put it. I mean, you know, you got the Discovery Channel. They put out the Mermaid Show, which was absolutely false. You know, and they even had the Department of the Navy sue them, you know, over their allegations that, you know, they were using some type of, you know, top secret sonar that was killing the whales, you know.
Right.
And that was defamation of character on the United States military. You know, they did the Megalodon, which was obviously fake, and then they just did this one called Joedy, the Yeti Killer, which they took a legitimate UFO story and turned it into a Yeti story that had absolutely nothing to do with the Yeti. You know, the show Cryptid, it's a paid, these guys are paid actors doing this show. You know, and like I said, I mean, I was getting ready to do a show for network, me and 2 other guys, and it was about werewolves, you know, going across the country, looking at dogman and werewolf sightings.
Right.
Okay. And they wanted to make it kind of like how Mountain Monsters was. And we said, no. I mean, we're not going to be chasing the cameraman out in the field, you know, pretending it's a werewolf.
Right.
You know, or a dogman. I mean, so we're not going to do that. And they, you know, they come back and they say, well, you know, legitimacy doesn't sell. It did 5 years ago, but now it won't. You know, and they're true. And that's absolutely true. As long as people sit there and watch shows like Finding Bigfoot, Mountain Monsters, Cryptid, you know, all these ridiculous shows, you know, the legitimacy of what we do is just going to go down the drain. It's not going to be worth it because they can just make stuff up and people are going to buy it.
Sort of like they do with the ghost hunter shows now.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to make sure that our viewers understand that you know, once again, you don't go shooting firewalks off.
Wait a minute. Wait. There's no rave parties and no marching bands in the middle of woods.
Right.
Yeah. I mean that is the most ridiculous thing, you know, that I've ever seen in my life. You know, with Finding Bigfoot. You know, I mean that's ridiculous. I mean, to even do that. I mean, you know, all Bigfoot likes raves. You know, Bigfoot likes a Hawaiian luau. Bigfoot likes, you know, cooked pigs. Bigfoot likes bacon. I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. That's why I say it's definitely it's a perfect example of not what to do, and you know, in the field.
Right. Well, and you could also get people hurt. I mean, that's my big thing about even on the paranormal side. You know, these guys showing these guys yelling and screaming at things. I mean, because we know people that have had attachments. We know people that have gone into places they didn't get permission from because they thought they had seen somebody in there before.
We know people have been killed
Oh,
on
yeah.
railroad tracks.
Yeah, I mean, there's been people killed on railroad. People don't understand it. You could get seriously hurt, and if it's the kind of terrain you think will support a Bigfoot, I can guarantee you there's bears. 98% of the time, you know. So you need to know what you're doing before you go out there. And unfortunately, I hope it does. I hope the cryptid world is a step ahead of the ghost hunting world and doesn't copy. You don't have a bunch of people just copying what they see on TV. I mean, because you're going to get somebody hurt.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, it's like I tell people, you know, like the show Mountain Monsters. They really think they're out there with guns, and I, you know, and you know, I can't see Discovery Channel, who owns Destination America, when I can't see their attorney saying, "Oh yeah, this is a good idea. We'll let these, you know, good old boys run out into the woods, you know, with loaded shotguns and 30-30s and
Right.
you know, Glock 17s and stuff, and let them go just shoot in the woods if they see something." No, their attorneys probably sat and said, "Yeah, they can carry guns, but either you're not going to have ammunition in them, or you're going to have blank ammunition, you know. But they're not going to be no live ammunition, you know, and things, because you know it's one of these things you're just waiting for somebody to get killed or get shot, and then you know some L.A. attorney's going to come in there down to the hollers, and you know get them good old boys and get them a pretty penny off the Discovery Channel."
Right.
Well, and then
Yeah.
not the other
You know.
side, the other side lawsuits for, you know, for the enduring the what am I thinking of? The mental anguish and the cruelty that they suffer
Yes.
to watch this happen because Bubba slipped and fell
Yeah.
and shot 3 people with a 30-30. Yeah.
Well,
30-30, yeah,
we're not
exactly.
we are not cryptid hunters
No.
of any type, but I cannot imagine if Bigfoot or Mothman or any of the rest of them, Skunk Man, whatever, I can't imagine them going, "Oh, a party, let me walk into it." They're so elusive to begin with. Do you think they're going to just show up because you're playing some weird music?
Well, and Jody, this
Yeah,
is,
you know.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
well, I have an opinion based question for you. You know, us being you know we're paranormal investigators, okay? You know this going in, and there's a spiritual there is a spiritual connected side to what we do, and you've actually seen some of the really connected psychics because you were up there at that convention. Do you think that the creatures would be more in tune since they're as close to nature as they are? You think they would be more in tune to their intuition and would trust it more?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just you know it's like you know some researchers put like thermal chips out,
Mhm.
you know, and of gorilla scent and things like that. You know, I'm hoping this is what you're talking about. You know, if they smell it, you know, or smell a predator or something out there, you know, they're not just going to go, you know, barreling through the woods after it. You know, they're going to sit there and look around. They're going to watch where this thing is, and most likely, you know, they're not going to challenge it, you know, or even go near it. So, you know, why would you put gorilla scent out there, you know, when this thing is not a gorilla? You know, and you know, you might be putting yourself in danger even doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
You know,
I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that they have more of a sulfur smell, so putting any kind of other animal scent out there would be ridiculous to begin with.
right? You know, and
I guess
you know, a lot of these
the gist of my question is, Jody, do you think that the Bigfoot creature that's out there is it more man-like in its intelligence or more animal-like in its intelligence? Because
I think it's
because they
well,
found
I'll put it
structures
to you
built.
this way.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hold on one second. I'm going to turn the volume down a minute, if you don't mind.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm getting loud here on my end.
How about now?
Let's see. I lost it.
How about now?
Okay, there we go. There we go. That's better. I think it has common sense. I don't think it has intelligence. Okay. I really have an issue with. I don't think anybody or any animal can have both intelligence and common sense. Okay. The one thing I learned from being in the Army for 20 years, and being a combat veteran, is that common sense keeps you alive, intelligence doesn't.
Right.
Okay. And I think in his case, the fact that he has common sense to know better is what's keeping him alive. Intelligence, if he had intelligence, he would probably could speak. He could probably use tools. You would find more of the human part of it. As far as trying to think of the right word here.
Well, the reason I phrase the question that way, Joedy, is there have been scenes found and situations that have been found where there have been structures that they wanted to attribute to being built by a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, they have. And we found them here in Ohio. I found about 3 of them. And I don't think there's someplace they live permanently.
Right.
I have a theory, and I've had this theory from the first one that I found, and I got it confirmed with some military people. There was a officer out of Fort Lewis, Washington, who was with one of the Ranger battalions up there, was out in the field. Him and his team, and they ran across one that was very similar to the one that was found in Ohio. Mm-hmm. But they found inside was placenta. That's what the medic said it was. And he worked in an ER prior to,
right,
going into the military. So he knew, he knew what it was. And so I thought maybe, they're birthing complexes, meaning that, they travel, and the male makes this shelter for the female to keep her protected from predators, environment, while she's giving birth, which kind of makes sense, and I've always thought that. And like I said, I just basically got it confirmed when I talked with this officer that told me his story about the one that they found and things. So, that's kind of my theory on it,
Yeah. And these structures are much more complicated. These structures are much more complicated than just leaned over trees.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, because I tell you what, the one I made for Monsterquest, it took me 4 hours, man, to put this thing together. And it looked crappy. But the funny thing about it, it's still standing today. I was up at Saltport, last month, rather. Mm-hmm. And I went back to look at it, and it's still standing. It's still there, after, 4 years from being 4 or 5 years or something like that from Monsterquest. So I'm pretty proud. What's that?
I recently saw a picture of you on what would be a paranormal location, sir.
Were you at Post Town?
Yes, I was.
Did you go in unescorted?
Unescorted? What do you mean?
Were you ever by yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a funny story about that. I went in to use the restroom, and when you walk into the guys' restroom, the urinals are off to your right and the stalls are off to your left. So I went to the urinal, and I was, standing there, and I heard someone go like that, and it started like grunts, and I remember just laughing, thought the guy was having a hard time in the stall, and he laughed, and I started laughing, and so I turned around, the stall door was open, and there's no one in there.
Ruh-roh.
And it's like, yeah, I was like, okay, this was where, because, I've heard stuff about Post Town. I've been there before, never seen anything, never heard anything, but except for that incident there, and it's like, okay. But see, most of the stuff that came out of that school, a lot of it's been like children,
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, a lot of the teachers, when that school was open, a lot of the teachers were male, and they were very hard disciplinarians on the children. So I don't think too many men have had too much contact there, but I know women have had more contact,
Right.
because of the children, So
Yeah, it's
but it's a neat place. Daryl is a super guy, I had a really great time there. There's, a couple researchers out there that, is talking a lot of smack, about it, kind of because they're falling out of the paranormal realm right now with people, and
oh yeah.
they're just creating a lot of bull, and Daryl's a real sweet man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've
yeah.
So one, we're not in Ohio. Two, we've just stayed out of all that. We've kind of
Yeah.
been burned out on the whole pay location thing anyway. I think a little bit to a certain degree.
And the drama is just, what do they say? Not my circus, not my monkey.
Yeah, not my circus and not my monkeys. So, Joedy, if
What
you
was
had,
that?
yeah, we're just if there's an old Polish saying that says it's not my circus and it's not my monkeys. So we don't even Kim and I don't even get involved in all that. Have you
Oh yeah.
if you had somebody that was let's say they were teenager, young adult, 19, 20 years old, and they got interested in stuff, the paranormal, cryptid, UFO kind of thing, what would be your first suggestion to them on how to approach any of the fields that are out there? But let's just say cryptid, because I know that's what you know best.
Right. The first thing I would tell them is definitely don't go by what you see on TV.
Right.
Because it's not correct, and it basically, like I said, it tells you not what to do.
Right.
Perfect example of it. I would read up on different books about it. I would tell them certain authors to look at. You have to be 90% skeptic. When you get into this, you cannot go in with an open mind or with a closed mind that you're going to find them, because you're not. You can search the whole world and you're not going to find them. It's one of these things where it's going to be by accident when it happens. Type thing. But read up on it as much as you can. Don't go by what movies and stuff that's on Facebook, and things like that. And tell them straight out. It's a very backstabbing, field. There's everybody out there think that they're going to get that $1 million shot. That their fame, and you're not going to get anything. There's no money to be made in these fields.
No.
And people have to understand that, there's no money to be made. With all the books I've written, all the TV shows that I've been on, I'm no more poor, richer today with all that stuff than I was before I did it. There's absolutely no money in it.
And
so if you're in it for fame and fortune, and let me tell you, I know guys out there, okay, that are in this, I call Hollywood researchers, and they're the ones, that, are in it because, they want fame and they want fortune, and, they have fans, and that kills me when the researcher says, oh, today my fans wanted me to do this. Fans? I mean, get real. I mean, are you serious? Fans? You have fans? And there's no experts. That's the thing you have to understand. There are no experts in this field. I don't care if you have a PhD, in biology, or PhD in, primatology or archaeology. There are no experts. You have to understand that there are absolutely no experts. And just because someone has a PhD, take what they say with a grain of salt, like you would from the guy who's been doing it for 10 years. Because that guy with a PhD doesn't know any more than the guy who just started last week.
Right.
And that's the truth. And I have issues, and this is, and this is my thing. I have issues with people with PhDs coming into this field thinking that they know everything there is about Bigfoot, and they don't. My second biggest P is people who charge to speak. I've never, ever charged to speak at a conference. I've never asked to be paid for it. The most I've ever asked for is, cover, maybe transportation if I'm coming out, further than where I can drive, and cover a hotel room. That's it. If I'm able to get there and drive home that night, don't worry about it. I mean, because I think those are legitimate researchers. If someone, says, you got to pay me X amount of dollars to speak, I mean, you ain't worth a penny, or worth a pimple on a researcher's butt. Yeah. If you take money for what you do, and that's what I believe, and those are the people you need to stay away from.
Well, see, not only did we supply him with transportation and a place to sleep, but we fed him the whole weekend too.
Yep. Yeah, we did feed you the whole weekend. You were up there in Napanock. We did feed you too.
Yeah, you did. You stuck me in a scary room, with a ghost cat.
Hey, we had Cynthia guarding you and protecting you the whole weekend. It was okay.
And we even let you stay an extra day. We even let you stay an extra day.
I think. I think we had no choice because everybody's plane mysteriously got canceled.
Right?
And remember that where everybody got stuck.
Yeah, everybody.
Because I drove Patty up there and dropped, said goodbye, dropped her off, and drove back to the hotel. And by the time I'd get back to the hotel,
Patty had called, and I was taking Joedy. So I picked up Patty, dropped off Joedy. We got a couple miles up the highway, and Jody's like, well, they canceled me too. Turn around and go back.
And just so you know, if you've never seen Kim, Patty, Joedy, and Cynthia in the front cab of my truck, just that picture was worth 1,000. That was worth 1,000 words.
No, I got a question.
That was funny.
I have a question for you. Would you though suggest that they watch the crypto shows on TV?
You're breaking up really.
How about now?
You broke up.
Is it
really
better?
Bad. It sounded like you were going like this.
I was. No,
okay.
Would you now suggest maybe to someone new coming in to watch the shows to learn absolutely what not to do though?
Would I tune in?
Would you suggest for them to watch it to make sure they never?
I didn't get to.
Did you say never? Would you tell somebody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yes, yeah. I would. It's like Finding Bigfoot is #1 show on Animal Planet. People watch it because it's amusing. It really, honest to God, is. It's amusing. You know, same thing with mountain monsters. That's why it's so popular. You know, people. Are you there?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You guys got quiet on me.
We were listening for
you know,
once.
that's why people. That's why these shows are popular, because people watch them because they're really hilarious. You know, if you sit there and read the comments about these shows, I mean, people just tear them apart. I mean, seriously tear them apart. But I know people. Seriously, when I say I know people really think that Mountain Monsters is a true show, and everything that's on that show is real.
Yeah, we know people who think that all the ghost hunting shows are absolutely real.
Yeah, there's entire groups on Facebook dedicated to all that. Joedy, I have a question, and this is a very serious question. Will we ever find a body or a corpse of one of these creatures? Dogman, skunk ape, boggy lake monster, any of them. Do you think we'll ever find a corpse?
Well, I'll if I had $1 million to lay down on a table to say that the Smithsonian Institute has the remains of one or partial remains of one, I would. I bet you any amount of money they have remains. Now, I'm going to say this here, and then I'm going to get back to your question because it kind of goes with your question.
Okay.
The Smithsonian Institute is still cataloging stuff from paper to computer, okay? And the world will probably end by the time they get done.
Right.
I mean, I mean, that's what they kind of said to me, because there's that much stuff, that they've got. And they only display stuff if they have 2 of them. If they only have 1, guess what? It's sitting in a crate somewhere under a step or in a warehouse or 2-3 floors below the museum, and it will never see the day of, the sunlight, unless somebody else brings something in. That's how it is. And, they've got pieces of this, pieces of that, and they don't know what it is. So, that's why I say I really believe that they have the remains of a Bigfoot. And they just don't know what it is until they got something else they can sit there and, identify it to. Now, as far as finding one and getting it out, the main thing is getting the general public to accept it.
Right.
There's been too many people out there hoaxing Bigfoot. I got a Bigfoot body. There's a guy that's been driving around with a Bigfoot body that he said he shot, and they did a movie about it and all this other stuff. And he basically hoaxed it before, had one in his freezer and stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff that kind of kills if one's actually found, because no one's going to believe it. They're going to think it's a hoax. I hope one is found, to prove it exists. But the main thing is science. Science is supposed to be open-minded, and they're not. They're completely ignorant, and I say that, very forcefully. They're stupid and they're ignorant, because science doesn't want to be wrong. Okay, science is, history's not going to ever change. Okay, we all know Christopher Columbus was a murderer. We know he was, a thief. We know he did some very nasty things to the Native Americans when he came here. We know that he wasn't the one that discovered America first. But we're not going to change history of that, because we get a day off of work for his birthday. Government workers get that paid day off, and you're not going to take that from them. So you're not going to change, you're not going to sit there and change history. And it's the same thing with science. Science, says he doesn't exist, and if they do find one, they're going to classify it as something other than what it is. because science doesn't want to be proven wrong.
Right.
You know, or they have to change things, or for religious purposes, you know, or whatever stupid thing they come up with.
Well, and I think isn't cryptozoology one of the few outer fringe sciences that religion just doesn't have a dog in the fight? Isn't that one of the few fields? I mean, you never see Baptists against Bigfoot. You never see that.
No, and that's true. You know, but you know the thing of it is, it's just, you know, people are open-minded about stuff. I mean, you know, everybody believes in ghosts more than anything. You know, everybody believes in ghosts. You know, I think what the, you know, it's like less than 1% of people don't believe in ghosts. You know, everybody knows that there's UFOs exist, and it comes like ghosts, UFOs, and then Bigfoot when it comes to believing. You know, but you know, the powers to be thinks that, you know, we can't handle the truth, and you know, we can handle the truth. You know, but the biggest thing is, you know, why Bigfoot will never be proven to exist is the logging industry. Okay, there's too much money to be lost with the existence of Bigfoot. Now, I've talked to guys from the show. Oh shit! It was just on the tip of my tongue. The ones who are out there cutting all the logs and stuff.
Right. I know the ones you're talking about. It's the logging reality shows.
Yeah, the logging reality show. I can't remember what it was. But I talked to two of them, and they've had more than one encounter on that show on Bigfoot. And they've always cut it out. They found tracks, which they've cut out. You know, they were told not to talk about it because, you know, the logging industry would just go to a halt if Bigfoot was proven to exist, because we're tearing his environment up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, you look what's going on in Texas, you know, because of this species of mouse. You know, these ranchers are not allowed to sit there and, you know, farm, you know, on their farms, you know, plow on their farms, you know, dig water holes for their cows, you know, let their cows graze, you know, because of a stupid little mouse that was discovered down there that's considered endangered. You know, so a lot of these farmers, livestock's going to end up dying off because, you know, it can't graze.
Right.
You know, and you know, if they're doing that for a mouse, a measly rodent, you know, that carries diseases and, you know, could start a plague, you know, why wouldn't they do it for Bigfoot?
Makes you wonder if they teach world history anymore.
What's that?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there any particular other than the 12 awesome books that you have out there? Is any other writers from the 70s or 80s that you would suggest somebody reading on? Somebody that maybe the mainstream doesn't talk about or nobody would know about unless you've been doing this for a while? Is there like a little nugget of an author that you could throw out there for our viewers?
I would say, you know, Lorne Coleman is a definite to look at. He's a cryptozoologist. He's been around since the 70s. He really knows his stuff. He's really put his heart and soul, you know, into it. He is definitely one I would highly suggest, you know, to look at. John Bindernagel, he's a wildlife biologist. He has a couple books out. He is one I would definitely tell people to, you know, look into. Some of the very older stuff, and the guys from like the 70s and stuff, it's really hard to find their books. So it's hard to throw their names out because, like I said, if you do find one of their books, you're going to pay a lot of money for it, and it's just not worth it. It's just, you know, you're better off sticking with the now. I mean,
right.
The best way to say it, you know. But like I said, Lorne Coleman is probably the best I would definitely definitely suggest to anyone.
Well, and the reason I had a very specific reason I asked. Last week we had on another really good friend of ours. I think you know him, Mr. John Tenney.
John who?
John Tenney.
No, John Tenney.
Yeah.
I love him.
we had Tenney on last week, and one of the subjects that we always seem to be discussing with him is the fact of how little history people know of paranormal research, because it goes back to the spiritualist movement in the early 1900s, and there's so much history and so many people that have done experiments up to now that if you don't go back and read the history, you're just repeating what's work that's already been done.
Right.
And
right.
That's the reason I asked.
And that's,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that's true. I mean, it's just like from the 60s and 70s, you know, a lot of those guys that put books out, how can I say it? You're just not going to get the information that you want.
Right.
You know, most of it's just stories. There's a couple of them out there that, you know, are just hoaxes and fakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Grover Krantz is another one I would highly suggest. You know, his books. If you want to go back into the, you know, the 70s, you know, and 80s. But, you know, like I said, some of the other ones, you know, I just kind of stayed away from, because, you know, going through my research throughout the years, half the pictures in there are definitely hoaxes, and they were proven to be hoaxes, you know, and stuff. So, you know, Ivan Sanders is, you know, like his stuff. He's, you know, a real big author on Bigfoot from, you know, the 70s, you know, and he was like the only authority out there at the time. And, you know, now it's coming out, a lot of his stuff, his pictures and stuff are fake. Oh. You know, the videos are fake and stuff. So that's why, you know, I tell people, you know, don't go that far, you know, because you're going to really be disappointed in your research when you figure out that it's not legit stuff.
Right.
You know, so just go with the guys that, you know, everybody started out with. That's Grover Krantz, Renee DeHenden, you know, Lauren Coleman. Those are like your three, you know, if you want to go all the way back until the 70s. And, you know, Renee DeHenden was doing it, you know, even back in the 50s. John Green is another one, you know, that was doing it way back in the, you know, 50s and 60s. Yeah. You know, Timmis is another one. You know, he, I don't think he had a book out, but he was a researcher, you know. But, you know, those guys I would say, you know, definitely look into.
Yeah.
John Green, you know, like I said, when it comes to strictly Bigfoot, John Green, you know, is definitely one you want to follow.
And would you suggest if somebody, let's say somebody similar to myself, you know, I grew up in the city, I don't have a lot of outdoorsman type experience. It would be beneficial for people to take some kind of, I don't want to say a survival course, but maybe that would be the right thing to take. But there's some basic like map reading skills and learning how to use a compass and that kind of stuff, kind of Boy Scout type things. People need to learn that before they go out in the woods, just because they need to be safe while they're in the woods, right?
Oh yeah, you know, one thing I talk about is, you know, even though you're going out for a day, you know, in your backpack, you should have at least 3 days worth of food and water. You know, a survival kit, you know, something that you're able to start a fire with, you know, something to protect yourself from the shelter, even though if it's one of those aluminum foil type, you know, blankets, you know, a tarp to protect yourself from the rain. You know, if something happens and crap happens, because most people, when they're lost in the woods for days, you know, they're usually within a mile of where their car is.
Right.
Because they go within circles, you know, or a mile within a main road, or a mile within civilization, you know. So I tell people, always be prepared, you know, be able to read, like you said, a map, you know your bearings when you're out. Definitely tell somebody exactly where you're going. Always let somebody know where you're going and what time you're expected to be back. You know, if you have a cell phone, obviously when you're in the field, you're not going to get coverage. You know, but that's why you always tell somebody, you know, if I'm not back by this certain time, by nightfall,
come look for me.
Come look for me,
yeah.
You know, or I'll call you or something. I mean, safety has to come before your research. And that's the biggest thing. You got to sit there and understand. And you'll find out a lot of researchers don't do it. But safety before research.
It's true. And it's the same in the paranormal. Yeah. You know, you need to make sure that the building you're going into, if it's a creepy old building, you need to make sure it's structurally sound. You know, if there's huge if there's huge holes in the floor, you don't want to be walking around on the edge of the floorboards hoping you don't fall through. No. And you definitely don't want to be doing that alone.
No. And you should never, ever go to the field alone. You know, I mean, I've done it. And the reason why I've done it, you know, because, you know, I spent 20 years in the Army. You know, I've been through survival courses. You know, like I said, I'm a combat veteran. You know, I've served in Iraq. You know, but it doesn't make me an expert in being in the field. Okay? But the point of it is, I got a better chance, I think, of getting out and surviving than most people.
Right.
You know, but, you know, I never suggest go by yourself. You should never go by yourself. Because, you know, you have to have the slap rock mentality. You know, something's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a 1970s cartoon reference for those of you that didn't catch that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
about a poor guy. Everything went wrong in this poor guy's life. Yeah.
Do you think, say you got your $1 million to bet with again, do you think people like back in the 60s, like Merlin Olsen or Dana Brown, ever ran across like a Bigfoot?
You know what? I thought about that, you know, and if they did, they wouldn't say anything because it would be putting their career in jeopardy.
Right.
You know, because that I mean, it was very taboo back in the 50s and 60s. And for someone in their position to come out and say they saw Bigfoot, you know, I really think it would ruin their career. You know, it's like, oh God, what's his name? The guy did Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Merlin
Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
Marlin Perkins?
Yeah.
Marlin Perkins. You said Merlin Olsen.
Yeah,
Merlin Olsen was from St. Louis. So.
You know, now when he went to DePaul to do to talk about the Yeti, he went there for one particular reason, and that was to discount the existence of it. Even though he might have believed in it, but for that show, he had to go and debunk it.
Right.
You know, which is, I mean, to me, is absolutely nonsense. But, you know, when you got a TV show and you're told to do it, you do it.
Right. But,
you know?
But what I'm saying is these guys have spent so much time out there looking for different creatures, more better known creatures, but looking, do you think, you know, they possibly could have run across one? Or
Oh yeah, I honest to God believe that. But like I said, they're not gonna say anything.
Oh no.
You know, about it. You know, but I really think the possibility is great, you know, that they did. And there was a movie called The Year of the Grizzly that was done back in the 50s. And I think it was done in Montana. And that one of their film crew members saw one when they were doing some filming, and I'm trying to think this story that I got. There's this guy that lived across the street from me that worked for a film company, and he worked in Hollywood, and you know, he had all memorabilia and all this stuff, and met all these big stars, and I would cut grass for him because he was an elderly gentleman, and he knew I was into Bigfoot. He was the one that told me this story that when they did this movie, and I can't think of the guy's name. He was in The Dirty Dozen also. Oh, geez, I can't think off the top of my head. But
the great big tall, muscular guy that was in there.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't remember his name either.
Yeah, but when they, you know, there was actually one part of the movie where they were filming him, you know, one of the guys talking, and in the background was this open field, and you had the wood line, and there was one walking right there. They got on camera, and you know, they just, you know, yeah, it went on the floor, you know, but they knew exactly what it was, you know, but it was from a distance, because you know they've seen, you know, this thing out there, you know, before while they were filming, you know, and stuff, which I thought was, but you know, it's an interesting story. But when you hear stuff like that, you got to take it for a grain of salt, even though you know the people, you know that they're good-hearted, and you know they probably wouldn't feed you a line, you know. But I personally believe the guy, you know, he worked with this movie, you know, he saw it. He saw that it was cut because they thought it wasn't important, and you know, and I can see Hollywood doing that, and I'm sure stuff like that has happened.
Right.
You know.
Well, with that part of it being said, do you think, let me ask you a question. How do you think the public will ever find out about the true existence of any cryptid creature that's out there?
How would they ever find it? Either through freedom of information, you know, or, you know, a whistleblower, you know, someone like Snowden,
right?
You know, something like that, you know, because I like I said, you know, the FBI's got 2,000 classified documents on Bigfoot. You know, why do they have 2,000 classified documents on Bigfoot? I mean, their agency is not an agency to search or to do research or anything like that on something like that. But they do. I mean, I wrote them under the Freedom of Information Act. I got like 28 pages of just blacked out garbage, you know, and, you know, in their cover letter, it states there's 2,000 plus documents that are considered classified. And here's the neatest thing about this. Each file is called a serial. Okay. Serial 1, Serial 2, Serial 3, Serial 4, on up to Serial 10. But Serial 4 was missing. You know, and when I wrote back under the Freedom of Information Act, well, what happened to Serial 4? You know, I got stuff from Serial 1, Serial 2, Serial 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But why is Serial 4 missing? Well, they said, well, it got sterilized. Well, but they don't know how. Okay, and it's like you're a government agency. These files got sterilized, but you don't know how. Well, obviously there was something in that file that they didn't want anybody to know about.
Right.
And that's why it's gone. And that's my belief. You know, there's a case that came out of Smoky Mountains in 1968 by a young boy come up missing. Lyle Martin, I think, is his name, but I can't think what his first name is at the top of my head here. It's been a really long day. I apologize. But he was in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee with his family. He met up with another group of boys his age, 6 years old. They were playing in the woods. the two other boys came back. The father said, "Where's my son?" They said he went into the woods. He didn't come out. So the father ran like 2 miles in the woods looking for his son, yelling and screaming, couldn't find his son. Well, at the time, or very close to the time, another family was in the woods, a mother, a father, and a daughter, saw a Bigfoot run up a hill with a young boy on his shoulders. Now, they called the Rangers. The FBI was called in because it was a missing child.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To this day, there's still a $5,000 reward for information on this kid. The head FBI agent on this case committed suicide. The FBI kept, they interviewed the other family, but they kept the information away from the Martin family. He asked the FBI, "Why didn't you tell me that another family saw a Bigfoot with a kid?" And they said it was insignificant to the investigation, and this family was told they were never allowed to talk to the Martin family, about the incident, but yet they did. Green Berets were called in with live ammunition and weapons, which is against federal law to do, to search for this kid, and they were out in the field for a week, but no information on that. They wouldn't work hand in hand with the search and rescue team from the U.S. Forestry Service. So there's just a lot of, weird stuff about this case, that doesn't make any sense. And that file, because the FBI was involved in it, should have been in the stuff that I put a Freedom of Information request in for. But that particular file is considered classified.
But,
why is this, why is it classified?
The only other reason I would think that the FBI would ever get involved with anything is if there were murders or killings that they could attribute to a Bigfoot.
Exactly.
But that would also mean
that
they've proven his existence, wouldn't it?
Well, here's the thing. A month prior to that, a U.S. Forestry Ranger was savagely attacked by one and almost killed by one of these Bigfoots. Yeah, when you talk about the existence of things, I give you an example. Maine, the state of Maine, Division of Wildlife put werewolves on the endangered species list.
And people laugh and giggle,
here's the thing. Silver bullets are illegal in the state of Maine. Okay? Why are silver bullets illegal in the state of Maine? Okay? So in order to ban silver bullets in the state of Maine, they put werewolves on the endangered species list. Now, how odd is that?
Very.
How high up do we have elected lycanthropes?
Very good.
How high up do we have elected lycanthropes? You never know.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, the FBI is not going to sit there and say, Bigfoot exists. Out of every single government agency out there, the FBI is like the only one I would ever trust, because to me, I think FBI agents are really true Americans. Okay, I think everybody else out there, Homeland Security, NSA, the rest of them are socialists, and they're out to destroy our country, and they're out to put everybody under their thumb. And I think the FBI, is a legitimate, agency, but they have to follow orders, and stuff, So there's like I said, there's just a lot of strange stuff about this case, and there's a lot of strange things about why the FBI has 2,000 classified documents on Bigfoot. You know, a lot of stuff just does not make any sense, you know. So,
well, Joedy, I have to thank you, sir, because you leave us with a cliffhanger that we can stop on every time. That way people have to come back to hear the rest of this.
Hey, anytime you want me back on, I mean, we have plenty to talk about. So, like I said, feel free, let me know.
We never run out of stuff to talk.
Yeah, we never run out. We never run out with Joedy.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, let me throw this out there. We want to thank our sponsor, Metaluna Boutique and Stones. Be sure to stop by there for all your brand new clothes, fashion, jewelry, and paranormal needs.
And metaphysical.
Needs. And we'll let you know pretty soon who's on next Friday. We don't quite know yet. Maybe not. We might run a repeat. We might take a Friday off.
You never know.
That's right. Take her out and have a dinner.
I might just do that. Go get a cheap hotel room, something like that. You know. Joedy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. People, I've been throwing up the link. I've been throwing up the link to your Facebook messages for people to contact you. So if they want to get a hold of you, they can come find you on Facebook. I figured that'd be the best way. Yeah,
definitely. They can find my books on Amazon Books. Just put my name in, Joedy Cook. They can go to, like I said, I'm working on a Cryptid magazine. The first issue's up. It's on a site called magcloud.com. That's where all the paranormal magazines are right now. You can look there. There's actually a link on my homepage on Facebook to where the magazines are. My website, I took all my websites down. I'm putting everything. I'm working on one website now where everything's going to be on it. So the website should be up. But anybody needs to get a hold of me, Facebook is the best way to do it.
Yep. And stick around for a minute. I got one more question for you when we go off air. But if you're going out either Bigfoot hunting or paranormal researching this weekend,
or just playing,
be careful out there and stay hydrated. It is hot out there.
It is.
So we'll see you guys next week.
Oh, it's like
sizzling. It's sizzling out there.